Hello, my name is Michael Martin, and I'm continuing videos here on YouTube discussing academic research on employee retention. And in this video, the topic is 100 years of employee turnover theory and research. Today, I want to discuss a landmark review article, um, historical overview of employee turnover theory and research over the last 100 years. The paper synthesizes a century of scholarship and traces how our understanding of employee turnover has evolved from simple prediction models to sophisticated multi-level dynamic frameworks. As a doctoral researcher in business administration, I find this article significant because it demonstrates how theory matures over time and how practice must evolve with it. Let's begin with the core premise. Turnover is not merely an HR metric, it is an organizational performance variable. The literature consistently shows that turnover can cost anywhere from 90% to 200% of an employee's annual salary when we account for recruitment, onboarding, lost productivity, and the erosion of institutional knowledge. So the question becomes, how did we arrive at our current understanding of why employees leave? Era 1, early predictive efforts. In the early 20th century, um, researchers focused on prediction and control. The primary question was simple: can we predict who will quit? Early studies relied heavily on application data and demographic variables. The 1920s era, um, was largely mechanical, focused on statistical prediction without deep psychological theory. Era 2 um, covered or focused on job satisfaction and commitment. By mid century, researchers began asking a more nuanced question: why do employees leave? Job satisfaction emerged as the dominant explanatory variable. Later, organizational commitment was added. During this period, scholars introduced the idea that turnover is influenced by two central forces: job satisfaction and perceived alternatives. Turnover was no longer just a data outcome, it was a decision process. Era 3, the process model. In the 1970s, scholars proposed a step by step model. Dissatisfaction leads to thoughts of quitting. Thoughts of quitting lead to search behavior. Search leads to evaluation of alternatives and eventually exit. This linear progression shaped decades of research. It institutionalized what we now call the standard turnover model. Measure attitudes, measure intentions, predict behavior. And indeed, turnover intentions remain one of the strongest predictors of actual turnover. Era 4, methodological maturity. As the field advanced, methods became more sophisticated. Researchers moved from simple regression models to logistic regression, structural equation modeling, and survival analysis. Turnover was increasingly treated as a time based dynamic event, not merely a binary outcome. The science matured, but something was missing. Era 5, the unfolding model, the shock perspective. In the 1990s, scholars introduced what we call the unfolding model of turnover. This model challenged the traditional dissatisfaction narrative. It argued that many employees do not leave because they are slowly becoming unhappy. Instead, they leave because of shocks. A shock could be a surprise job offer, a conflict with a supervisor, a life event, or a violation of personal values. In some cases, employees follow pre existing scripts. If this happens, I'm leaving. This was a paradigm shift. Turnover is not always gradual, it is often event driven. And critically, there are multiple paths to exit. Era 6, Why people stay. Most recently, research shifted from asking, why do people leave, to asking, why do people stay? This is where the concept of job embeddedness emerged. Embeddedness focuses on three dimensions: fit, links, sacrifice. Employees stay because they are connected to coworkers, to community, to family structures, and to meaningful roles. Leaving would require sacrifice. This is not simply the inverse of dissatisfaction. An employee can be dissatisfied and still remain highly embedded. That insight fundamentally changed retention strategy. Contemporary insights. Modern turnover research now includes collective turnover, how turnover at the group level affects performance, differentiated turnover, recognizing that losing high performers is not equivalent to losing low performers, trajectory analysis, studying not just satisfaction models levels, but whether satisfaction is increasing or decreasing over time. In other words, a declining trend in engagement may predict turnover more effectively than a single annual survey score. This has direct implications for analytics driven HR leadership. Uh, Practical implications for leaders. So, what does 100 years of research teach us? First, selection matters. Hiring for fit reduces early exit. Second, realistic job previews reduce expectation gaps. Third, onboarding is critical. Early tenure is a high risk period for turnover. Fourth, leaders must monitor change over time, not just static engagement metrics. And finally, retention is not about eliminating dissatisfaction alone, it is about strengthening embeddedness. Retention strategy must be multidimensional. In closing, what this century long review reveals is the evolution of thought. We move from prediction to process, from dissatisfaction to shocks, from leaving to staying, and from individual decisions to organizational systems. As independent scholars and executive leaders, our responsibility is to integrate this depth of theory into practice. Turnover is not random, it is patterned, it is measurable, and when understood correctly, it is manageable. Thank you for engaging in the scholarly discussion. If you value research-based leadership insights, subscribe for more evidence-driven results on employee retention, organizational performance, and executive decision making. In the description below, I will share reference to the journal article discussed. Thank you.